Hey guys, in this video we're going to be going back to Thranothor and doing a revised rank 1 clear. Some of you guys have said you missed the turn charts that I've made for fights, that way you can follow along step by step. I didn't make one originally because the fight's so long and because you might push a threshold on a different turn than me depending on either variance or your gear. But I've went back and I've kind of optimized a little bit, and I've made a turn chart that should, I think, for the most part, work for everyone as long as your team is similar to mine. And you can just follow along step by step. So we're going to go for all modifiers. And this is the party. I've made some small changes yet again. We're now just not even going to use a cover tank at all. No cover tank, no problem. So this is the party we're going to use. We're going to use Runda, because I really love Runda's permanent uptime 85% mitigation. It makes the fight a lot smoother. That being said, turn 1 is going to be a little risky. So turn 1, if someone dies, just retreat and come back. Most of the time, your turn 1 should be fine. But depending on the boss's RNG, it is possible that he uses a bunch of breaths and magical attacks on turn 1, and we're probably not going to survive. After turn 1, we should be totally fine. So let's get in here and do it. So Runda is using Poppy's STMR, and he's going to be sealing the boss pretty much every turn, just about. So we're going to go ahead and just laser 3 times to seal the boss. Kresnik will Arcane Stimulant. Sylvie is going to Magnus in the base form, Vines, and Petals. That's going to give us 85 general and 75 magic and physical mitigation. Roberta in the base form, because we don't have accuracy down on the boss yet, we're going to do Dragon Mitigation. We're going to do Support from the Skies to Mirage the tank, basically. And then we're going to do her Magnus to do a long-term modifier boost for the party. Esther is going to True Stormbrand. We're going to Magnus. And we're going to use we're going to use Slice to defense break. Also, we broke the boss with the Obsidian Bracer from Roberta's shift form. And then in the base form, we're going to use Wilk to Earth Stance, Ancestor's Presence, and either Peaceful Zephyr or Crag, depending on if you chose to use his axe or his fist. I'm using his fist, which gives us Zephyr. Crag is the skill if you're using the axe. Either one is fine. So here we go. So there's going to be some magic attacks. Now, hopefully he doesn't go bonkers on the magic damage here. Let's see here. Pretty timid so far. Oh my god, he did no magic attacks at all on the party. He can do up to 3. 4 is a stretch, but 3 is pretty much fine with the party we have right here. Sometimes he'll do 3. If he does 4, you might have a death, and if that happens, retreat and come back in. But after you get past turn 1, you're pretty good. So Runda is now going to just hit the boss twice to seal, and we're going to use Runda Barrier this turn. Kresnik is going to Arcane Antioxidant this turn. We're going to use now Sylvie to do Compassion. Now, someone may have been mana drained potentially to 0 mana. Someone like, for example, Wilk. If Wilk is hit with the mana drain, or Esther, they might have 0 mana. That's totally fine. Sylvie is now going to Gravel Egg. We're going to Resolve, and that'll give you mana for this turn. And then we're going to Compassionate Knight. Alright, Esther is going to do her LB, and so is Wilk. If you want to, you can chain these up. I actually don't want to do too much damage, so we're going to intentionally not chain these up. So we're going to use Wilk's Shifted LB for the accuracy down, also to stack it up for later. Then we're going to do Esther's LB to put up that field. And Roberta is going to go to the base form, where she is going to Morale Fill. She'll do an Insect Killer for herself for just a permanent duration spirit buff. And we're going to Ignitas's Domain for a big fire resist buff. Okay, also a barrier. So this turn is going to be Might of the Virtuous. It's going to deal basically 0 damage. Because it's an Omni Nuke of all elements, but with Kresnik and Roberta combined, we're immune to everything, so it's totally fine. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and use Runda to SLB for his mitigation. Sylvie is going to shift this turn, and we're going to triple. We're going to use the Earth Magnus to get set up for later. We're going to do Cheerful Paladin. Sylvie is also using a wind weapon. I'll show you the gear at the end. That's going to seal the boss. We don't need to seal wind this phase, but we're going to just always seal the boss when Runda uses his SLB to be safe. And then we're going to use her Magnus. I've got your back on Wilk. That is going to refill Wilk's LB gauge, which we need for this turn. Now, Wilk is going to... We're also going to use the LB of Kresnik, by the way. Wilk is going to use either Hurricane Fist if you're using the Fist, or Quake Blade if you're using the Axe. But we're using the Fist, so we're going to do Hurricane Fist. Esther can just do triple slice here. It doesn't really matter. We just need to fill her LB gauge. And we're going to do the LB on Roberta for the buffs. So we're getting all the LB buffings out of the way on turn 3, so that turn 4 we don't have to use the Limit Burst. Alright, so turn 3 is very safe. It's again a bunch of elemental damage, but we're immune because of all the resist buffs. So it looks like Roberta is not quite immune, but it doesn't matter. It dealt like 500 damage. Totally fine. Alright, Runda is going to go ahead and triple laser. That's going to seal the boss again. Now that Kresnik's in the base form, for most of the fight, he can just every turn do Potion, Remedy, and Antioxidant. He's going to do that pretty much the rest of the fight. Sylvie is now going to triple. We're going to Demon on Esther. Demon Killer, because Esther's the big damage here. We're going to Demon Killer on Esther. We're going to, let's see here, Cheerful Paladin Strike twice. Yes. To fill Morale Gauge. Roberta in the base form is going to Morale Fill. We're going to refresh the Dragon Mitigation, and we're going to do Mega Breath to get ready for next turn. Esther is going to Magnus, Slice, and then Impact, because we want to put accuracy down up on the boss again. And then Wilk go to the base form, where he is going to Magnus for the big killers for the party. This is our burst turn. We're going to dash, and we're going to steady. Okay. So that should have filled the morale gauge to the maximum of this party. We actually overfilled the morale by quite a bit, but that's fine. Okay, so now it's going to be bursting time. So we're back in the first phase of the threshold, or the first round of the rotation in phase 1. As you can see, because the boss's morale is low, the damage is significantly lower. Not to mention we now have things like 85% mitigation for the whole party. The boss is being very friendly by not using very many Lacuna Breaths. It's not that big a deal if he does, I promise you, but, you know, I guess, okay, cool. Anyway, so the first action on turn 5, we're going to do the shifted LB of Sylvie. That is going to put up a modifier boost for LBs on everyone. Wilk is going to shift, and we're going to do his powered up Vengeance of the Dreadnought. Esther is going to LB. Roberta is going to quad Mystic. And you might be wondering about the boss's Spirit Break. He is still Spirit Broken from the Obsidian Brazier. It's only an 80% break, so Roberta is getting a little bit of a penalty, but that's okay. We've got 87% defense break from Esther. We're going to now Extreme Nova Chain with Kresnik to tag with Esther, and Runda is going to triple Runda Laser to match up with our Wilk. So we're going to go ahead and put up the attack and magic buff. Now, depending on your gear, depending on variance, we might even push the threshold at 75%. Probably not, but if variance is really good, we may. So let's go ahead and do our burst. So we're going to go ahead and start the chain with Roberta. Let that chain get nice and big. Then we're going to go ahead and chain the rest of the guys. And here's our damage. That also gives us that 100 count chain score to get it out of the way. Well, look at that. We did push the threshold. Okay, 3.6 billion. Yeah, so the damage in this optimized clear, now that I sat down and wrote down all my turns, is very, very good. If we didn't push the threshold, it's okay. You're going to continue to follow the turn chart exactly as is. I've got the turn chart set up to where no matter if you push the threshold on turn 5 or turn 6, you're going to do the same thing. So during this, the big important thing is you remove the attack and magic buffs from the boss this turn. He's got attack and magic buff, and you got to get rid of those. So we're going to have Runda do his LB for mitigation. Sylvie is going to go to the base form. We're going to triple. So we're going to not so fast to get rid of the attack and magic buff. If you didn't push the threshold, you don't technically have to do it this turn. But on my turn chart, I'm doing it on turn 6 as well. But we're going to go ahead and refresh Vines and Petals this turn as well. So Kresnik for the rest of the fight basically is going to Potion, Remedy, and Antioxidant, except for the zombie turn, and we'll explain that when we get there. Roberta can go ahead and just tag ×4. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, tag ×4. Let's see. Esther can morale fill. I got my little chart here. I'm sorry, no. Esther is going to True Storm, and then Calm, and then Slice, and then Wilk to the base form, where he is going to Focused Earth, Ancestors, and Steady Claws. So, you can, just, for the sake of it, use the attack and magic buff, etc. Let's go ahead and do this and this. Doesn't really matter if you chain it. These are mismatched frames. And then after this finishes, so we don't break the chain, we'll send Roberta to get a little bit of chip damage in. Now, the boss does have defense and spirit buffs, so the damage is pretty low right now, as you can see. But that's okay. Anyway, so now we're in Phase 2. Here's some Phase 2 stuff, whatever. So you just keep following the turn chart. The turn chart is pretty much, as long as you're roughly similar to my turns, you're okay. There's nothing really that is specific threshold. The only thing that's really specific is the zombie turn is very specific, and the first threshold, because you got to get rid of those attack and magic buffs. So now we're going to have Sylvie. You might have pushed the threshold on turn 6. If you did, we're still going to cast Not So Fast. We don't really need that this turn, because we already did it last turn. But, this I'm going to stop stressing that. But there we go. So we're going to Compassion, and we're going to Resolve as well. We also got a damage over time, which is going to be a little bit painful. So we're going to go ahead and shift Wilk and continue to deal our damage. For the rest of the fight, Wilk and Esther are going to just rotate LB and recharge for the whole thing. Before we do that, we're going to use Dragon Mitigation again, Mega Breath, and Dragon Mit, Mega Breath, and Mystic Breath on Roberta. Let's see, Runda we'll do that in a minute. So we'll go ahead and attack and magic buff. We will send Roberta first, and then send these guys, just to get a little bit of damage in. Let's see, turn 7, we did Sylvie already. Kresnik is going to, by the way, Kresnik is going to, just reload. And then Runda can seal the boss. So we're going to laser, and we're going to do Runda Barrier for the resistance buffs. Okay, so we might have the damage over time already. I'm not sure if it was this turn or last turn we got it. We're going to get it eventually. Okay, we do have the damage over time, but as you saw with barriers and all, we're fine. Here's the zombie turn. Okay, Kresnik might counter. He countered. That's awesome. If Kresnik did not counterattack that turn, to cure the zombie, the first action you would do on the zombie turn, which is Corrosive Mist, is you would use Salving Will. That would cure your zombie. There you go. Zombie is gone if you did have it. We didn't have it, but we might have. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and just have Runda do Runda Laser again. Back to the base form with Wilk, where he's going. Let's do Sylvie first. Sylvie on this turn is going to shift. We're going to use Bolt Egg to imbue the party. We're going to use Offense Demon. Paladin's Offense, and then Demon Killer on Esther. That's going to break the boss again. Alright, Roberta on this turn is going to use her LB. Let's see. Esther is going to Magnus and double slice. Wilk is going to triple Frenzied Claws to get himself ready. We'll go ahead and do the attack and magic buff and chain that up. And then Kresnik can just repeat. Kresnik is going to continuously, barrier, heal, etc. So, there's the damage over time. No big deal. Here comes some more damage. Omni Destruction, whatever. It's super whatever. We have lots of resist buff. And yeah, early on I thought a magical tank would be a big deal. Honestly, it's not. You really don't need a magical tank on this fight. That's what you get from, learning the fight as we go. So we're going to go ahead and now use Sylvie's LB to buff the party on turn 9. Then we're going to use Runda's LB after Sylvie. Alright, so one important distinction here. We did not deal wind damage this turn, because Sylvie did her LB and so did Runda, and neither of them deal damage. Let me actually confirm, that might not even be the case. Does Sylvie's shifted LB deal damage at all? Does it deal any damage to the boss? I don't think it does. No damage to the boss. Yeah, so we didn't deal wind damage this turn. We don't actually need wind damage on this turn, unless we push the threshold. Let's see if we do. So we're going to Mystic Breath 4 times. We're going to shift it LB Wilk. And we're going to base form LB Esther. We'll do the attack and magic buff. Okay, let's go ahead and deal some damage here. Okay, we did go below 50, and we didn't deal wind damage yet. We need to. So, Kresnik is going to deal wind damage from an Esper. So, Arrow, magical wind damage, done. Wind damage was dealt that turn. There's the damage over time. Now we've pushed the thresholds. We're going on a little bit quicker than my turn chart was expecting. I didn't expect to be in phase 3 already, but that's totally okay. Like I said, the turn chart is pretty flexible. So, on this turn, we're going to, with Sylvie, go to the base form. We're going to Petals, Vines, and we're going to Gravel Egg to imbue the party with Earth this turn. Roberta on this turn is going to quad. We're going to Mega Breath and Mystic a few times just to deal more damage. Let's see. Esther is going to Calm and Double Slice. Wilk, base form. Triple Frenzied Claw. We'll go ahead and do the attack and magic buff. We got to deal wind damage, so we're going to deal Run to Laser. The boss is going to absorb it this turn, but we don't really care. It still counts. And then we're going to chain these up. Deal a little bit of damage here. Okay, and Kresnik can go back to Potion, Remedy, and Antioxidant pretty much every turn. So this is the Kairos phase, and as you know, the Kairos phase is pretty painful, especially because the boss has his field up right now. There's the damage over time. It is still ticking, but it's going to be okay. So here comes a decent chunk of damage on Runda. This turn is not too bad, especially because Runda has a lot of fire resist. So it's relatively fine. It is kind of painful, but, oof. Ouch, Runda. Okay. Okay, that was really painful there. That's because the boss had his field still. Notice the boss has his boost damage field. What I should have done, truth be told, is the 400% defense buff from the morale bar. I didn't think of it. I didn't think we needed it, and we technically didn't need it, but it was really painful. So we're going to go ahead and run to Laser a few times. We're going to shift Sylvie and do her shifted LB this turn. Let's see, 1, 2, yeah, making sure I'm doing this right. Let's see, Roberta. Roberta on this turn is going to shift. We need to put up the Magnus again. So we're going to, in the shifted form, we're going to Dragon Killer. We're going to Magnus, and we're going to Support from the Sky. See, I actually thought we were going to start the, I thought we were going to start the Kairos phase this turn. We started a turn early, so we didn't have Mirage for Runda. I kind of planned to have Mirage for Runda on the first turn of the Kairos phase. But, you know, like I said, the turn chart is pretty flexible. So even though we did push the phase a turn early, thanks to variance, it ended up not being that big a deal other than the fact that Runda took a serious beating. So we'll go ahead and deal some damage again here. Okay, the boss does have a defense buff because of the threshold, of course, a little bit irritating. So we're going to go ahead and use, let's go ahead and use a triple potion and then a Curagia because Runda's really hurt and there is a healing down modifier, I think, or maybe it actually isn't up yet. I don't know. Apparently we don't have the healing down modifier quite yet. Anyway, there is the damage over time. There's an AoE physical on the second phase of the Kairos rotation, but we used Support from the Skies from Roberta to deal with that. So that was, you know, not really a problem. Next up, we're going to wait for this to finish. Ouch. Big ouch, but that's okay. Alright, turn 12 of the rotation is time for the SLB of Runda. We'll go ahead and do that. Wilk to the base form. This turn, we're going to Focused Earth, Ancestors, and Steady Claw. Esther is going to True Storm, Calm, and Slice. Make sure I'm doing this right. Got a little turn chart here. Let's see. Oh, as the first action on this phase, we're going to use Sylvie. We're going to Demon Killer on Esther. We're going to Clever. Oh, yeah, Clever is going to hit the boss. Clever Paladin Strike, because we need to hit the boss to deal wind damage, which we're going to do. And then we're going to use the Magnus, the Lightning Magnus on Silver. We're going to do that first, before we do the other guy's skills. Okay, now Wilk can do his stuff, Esther can do her stuff. We're going to go to the base form with whatever this person's name is. And this turn, we're going to triple. We're going to do Ignitos for a barrier, because we're taking some damage here, and we're going to double Mystic. You know what I should have done is the defense and attack and magic buff, whatever. Let's go ahead and do this. Kresnik is going to, because we are still really hurt, we're going to Curagia, we're going to Potion, and we're going to Antioxidant. Actually, to make sure we're totally safe, we're going to Potion and we're going to double Curagia to top off our tank, because the tank is taking a decent chunk of damage. And next turn, we're probably going to get out of this phase anyway. Almost certainly. Okay, so some damage on our tank. He should be fine here. It's Runda. He's a boss. Yeah, this turn is not super bad. Some of the magic damage might hurt a run, because Runda's Spirit is not the greatest, and I kind of had to gear him for both defense and Spirit. So he is stretched kind of thin on his gear, but it's fine. We've got mitigations from Sylvie. We've got his own SLB, so it's fine. Anyway, it's time to deal some damage here. So the first thing we're going to do with Sylvie is go to the base form on this turn, and we're going to use Compassionate Knight. We're going to do offense to break the boss, Paladin's offense, and we're going to do Bolt Egg. Alright, now we're going to LB with Wilk. We're going to LB with Esther. Roberta is going to turn 13. Roberta is going to use her LB as the first action. We got to do that too. We're kind of doing like a lot of setup right now. Let's see. We're going to attack and magic buff, and we'll go ahead and chain this up. Might push the threshold, might not. It doesn't really matter either way. We did. Wonderful. So Runda is going to seal the boss. We'll just triple Runda Laser. Actually, we're going to Runda Lasers twice and put up the barrier. And Kresnik, now we're in the safe phase. We can go back to Potion, Medicinal, and Antioxidant. Yeah, so now we're in phase 4, so this is pretty nice. This phase is, in my opinion, the easiest phase of all. So there is a gravity damage. It looks painful. It's really not. Alright, so we do have a barrier and all as well. So we're going to have Sylvie base form. We're going to Petals, Vines, and we're going to Resolve to refresh a big barrier. We're going to, with Roberta, we're going to go ahead and Dragon Mitigation, Mega Breath, and Mystic. We will, let's see, Magnus and Double Slice with our Esther, and we're going to do it also with Wilk. So this is the last time the boss is going to have those defense buffs. So it's going to be a little bit irritating for the next 2 turns while the defense buffs are up, but that's okay. Runda is going to just laser. Let's see, we're going to click Roberta first, then we're going to chain the rest of the guys. Alright, so one thing to notice is, even though you can't really see it because of the barrier, we actually are still quite hurt. We're at half health, and we still have the healing reduction. So we're going to use a double Curagia and a potion from Kresnik to really top off the party, because the healing reduction is still active. There we go. Okay, damage over time is still here also, I think. No, it's not. It actually wore off at this point. The damage over time is from the Asta phase. That was back from 75 to 50, so we're good. So yeah, so this phase, super easy. You know, the hardest thing is having to deal with the boss doing the elemental damage on the boss. But we've got Runda with, you know, wind weapon, Sylvie with wind weapon, and Kresnik as backup wind damage if we really need it. Alright, so Runda, SLB. Sylvie is going to shift this turn. We need to deal wind damage because Runda did his SLB. So Sylvie is going to Clever Strike. We're also going to Demon Killer on Esther, our big damage. And we're going to use the Lightning Magnus. There we go. Alright, Roberta is going to tag ×4. Esther LB, Wilk LB. Now we don't have Sylvie's, Sylvie's modifier boost, so this LB will be a little bit weaker than usual, but it's alright. What do we do? Yeah. So we'll go ahead and chain this up. And Kresnik can go back to his safe thing, so Potion, Remedy, Antioxidant. We're all healed up now. Alright, so the boss does have a defense and spirit buff. Probably 2 more turns, not a problem. Some mana drains on the party, you know, whatever. We are miraging, all that kind of goodness. So some attacks. How's the boss's defensive spirit? One more turn? Alright, yeah, so we're going to kill on turn 17. Alright, let's go ahead and have Runda seal the boss with Runda Laser. Let's have Sylvie shift here. Oh, she's already shifted. And we're going to do her shifted LB for those LB mod buffs. Base form Wilk, where we're going to Frenzied. Whoops. Esther does her thing. We can ×4 tag with our Roberta. We'll go ahead and put up the attack and magic buff. And Kresnik can just repeat. Okay, so next turn's a pretty obvious win. And honestly, we might even do 2.5 on the finishing turn as well, which would be kind of amusing. Because we actually have the Thunder Magnus on the next turn coming in. Alright, let me write one thing real quick. Okay. Time to finish off the boss. So, let's see. We need to do anything on turn 17 first. Not really. So, Wilk will shift here. We will LB. Esther will LB. Because we're going to finish the boss this turn, I'm not going to bother refreshing all the buffs. We're just going to go ahead and Mystic a bunch to see if we get that big boy damage. And yeah, that's it pretty much. Let's do this. And we will send Roberta, and then send the... Oh my god, I totally misclicked the chaining. So, yep, we broke the chain all over the place in the last turn. We're not going to get the 2.5 with that broken chain. That is really unfortunate, because we could have had a show-off clear with a 2.5 if I hadn't broken the chain on the last turn. Oh well, we did 3.6 on the phase 1, so who cares? Oh my god, I can't believe I did that. Super sad face. Oh well. Oh well. So, here's the damage breakdown. We did give Esther the 250% Demon Killer buff the whole fight. So, don't judge Esther super highly over this damage breakdown, because we did focus all the big buffs on Esther. And we did not give as many to Wilk, because Wilk was using his LB, which is a little bit less damage than his setup stuff. Anyway, there's the damage breakdown. There's the rank 1 clear. And I've got the turn chart going all the way to turn 20. In case you didn't finish off the boss at that point, you should definitely kill him within 20 turns with this party. So that clear should be easy for you to follow along, and don't break your chain like a dummy like I did. So here's the team. So a little bit risky on Runda. As you saw, Runda took some pretty big hits some turns, and a few turns he was quite in danger. But if you're willing to risk a little bit of danger, this party should work. Make sure your Runda is door-potted to all his relevant stats. You really want him as bulky as possible. We gave him the paintbrush. That way he always seals the boss on any turn we need. Death immunity with backup unit. Passive provoke with the Dancer's Datum. Notice he's only 40% evasion. We're also doing a 50% evasion down with Wilk. So he's only at 90% evasion. That's honestly fine. Every now and then a physical hit will get through. Not to mention during the Kairos phase, Kairos has accuracy, so all the physical hits will get through. Well, actually he doesn't have accuracy, he has evasion down. So evasion doesn't work in the Kairos phase. But yeah, so Runda, pretty bulky. Here's his setup. He needs status immunity as well. Make sure he's immune to confusion and paralyze. We're getting that from the Winged Heart. Also, he wants about 100 fire resist. That way we don't take a ton of damage during the Kairos phase. Other than that, some double hand spirit and double hand defense. He's got max double hand defense. Pretty low on the spirit. He's actually only at 3,000 spirit. That is very poor for your provoke tank for the magical damage. But he did it. It worked. Whatever. Anyway, Kresnik is using the Lightning Fast Legend. If you don't have that, the Eye of the Dragon is totally fine as well. But give him extreme Nova Frames. I gave him double Blizzard Orb just for some countering for more LB fill, because Sylvie's LB is pretty expensive, and we have to refill that every few turns to keep her modifier buff up. So Kresnik countering with some LB fill is helpful. And again, if you don't counter on the zombie turn, just cure it with the morale bar. It's okay. It doesn't really matter. If you do counter, Well, it's fine. You don't have to. Click. And then shift form, same thing. Shift form is using a little bit of LB fill with Call of the Wild, High Class Dagger, and Paintbrush. That way we can get his shifted LB on turn 3 guaranteed. And then here's the build in the shift form. And then he's using a spirit card. If you don't have Chow's card, any spirit card you want. Sylvie. Now this is a little bit weird. Sylvie is also using the paintbrush. But you also want Sylvie using her STMR for the not so fast skill. So you got to make her dual wield. She doesn't like dual wielding. It does hurt her stats quite a bit. But, I mean, instead of having 8,000 spirit, she's got 4,600. It's totally fine. She is not our provoker this fight. She's not tanking. So that totally does not matter. I'm giving her dual wield with the Tetris Sylphid synergy. And there we go. Shift form identical. Death immunity from Vermilion Flag. Death immunity from Blizzard Orb. And there we go. So that way, because she's got to have the way to seal the boss on the turns that Runda does his SLB. We're not doing wind damage on those turns. And as far as wind damage goes, by the way, put Kresnik on Tetris Sylphid for a wind nuke. I think Leviathan has one as well, but just give him a source of wind damage in case both Sylvie and Runda are busy. Wilk and the base form are both forms are geared identical. I went with the fist. You can go with the axe if you'd rather. Either one is fine. Blizzard Orb for death immunity. Other than that, LB damage versus dragons and demons. I gave him, the pay-to-win card. And then we gave him bulk and the extra slots like, Guardian of Light, Beach Party, and Lucas Valiant. Because, I mean, he caps everything just by default. So we gave him a lot of spirit. And there we go. Maxed LB, maxed Demon, maxed Dragon. And then Esther, base form. Kurisame's Knowing Tag for death immunity. LB damage versus demons and dragons. There we go. Maxed on everything. I gave her the Lucas Valentine recipe, again, for more bulk, decent hit points, decent spirit. Make sure you door pot her all the way so that she is good. Maxed on everything. And then Roberta. Dragon mitigation, dragon killer for the party, decent chaining damage as well. We're giving her a double-handed greatsword for magic. You can use any double-handed weapon you want, or you can go dual wield. The dual wield build is not that much further behind, but it is technically stronger to go double hand if you have the gear for it. If you don't, dual wield is fine. She's a secondary DPS anyway. Wilk and Esther carry the fight regardless. So base form, death immunity from Vermilion Flag. Some Demon Killer double hand, Dazzling for the double hand, maxed on all stats, and then maxed Demon and 275 Dragon. Shift form, we start in the shift form. She's using an Earth and Wind weapon as well as a Lightning weapon. If you don't have the Lion Saber, another Poppy's STMR, or honestly, I don't think we ever actually sealed the boss with Roberta. That was mostly a backup, so really we don't even need that. Truth be told, that was just like a backup option that we never actually used. But Obsidian Bracer, very important, because we don't break on turn 1. Obsidian Bracer is our turn 1 source of breaking. Other than that, some bulk in the shift form. And there we go. There was the explained rank 1 clear. And I'll try to go back for more rank 1 clears using different units. I have seen the comments saying, what if I don't have Sylvie? What if I don't have Esther? Truthfully, that's going to make this fight a whole lot harder, but I'll work on it over the next 2 weeks. It may or may not happen. I will try, but we'll see. Anyway, see you next time.